düşüyor.
Peki,
Yazık,
yayına
çok
verdim.
zordu. Tamam hocam.
Bir saniye içerisinde yayınımız başlamış olacak. Buyurun.
Düşüyor.
Peki,
Yazık,
yayına
çok
verdim.
zordu. Hocam bir 5 dakika bekleyelim isterseniz. Çünkü buradan gruptan yazıyor, bağlanma sıkıntısı yaşayan hocalarımız olduğu için.
Peki, siz nasıl uygun görürseniz.
Tamam hocam, şu Nur Hoca'ya cevaplayayım.
Bu arada YouTube üzerinden de soru sormak isteyen, sorusu olan olursa sonlara doğru onları da aktarırım ben Zoom yayınımıza.
Tamam hocam. Arkadaşlar hoş geldiniz. Bu arada burada daha önceden görmediğiniz arkadaşlarımız var. Levent hocam, beni duyuyor musunuz? Ahmet hocam, Sevim hocam. Onlar, bir dakika hocam. Hocam YouTube'dan bağlanan hocalarımız da var. İsterseniz başlayalım. Oradan takip eder hocalarımız. Olur mu? Okay, so hello everyone. It's very nice to see you all here. Today we have a great guest, Associate Professor Arzu Ekoç Özçelik from Yıldız Technical University. Let me give you some brief information about Arzu Hocam to you. Associate Professor Dr. Arzu Ekoç Özçelik received her BA from Translation and Interpreting Studies from Boğaziçi University and her master's in ELT from İstanbul University. She completed her PhD in ELT at İstanbul University in 2013. She has been working in the School of Foreign Languages at Yıldız Technical University since 2006. She has published a number of research articles, book chapters, and co-edited a book. Also, she has given various presentations at ELT conferences and webinars. Her research interests are learner identity, higher education and continuing education, continuing professional development for teachers, EAP, and second language writing. These are only just some parts of Arzu Hoca's works. She's an active learner. She has a great taste in art. I mean, she does so many things. But as I said, that's just only a small biodata of her. I would like to thank her again for coming here, joining us, spending time with us here at Language Academy, and leave it to her. Thank you, Arzu Hocam. Welcome again.
Thank you, Sibel Hocam. Thank you for your kind words. Dear colleagues, I am happy to be delivering this presentation to you. It is great to be with teachers who believe in the importance of professional development, who invest in themselves. You know, after a tiring day, I guess you are here, and this is so valuable for me. Dear colleagues, you do so much more than teach, I know. You care, you protect, you support, you lead, you shape, you mentor, and you help raise our kids. And you deserve all the kind words you receive. Thank you, many thanks for being who you are, being a great teacher. So first, I would like to thank you. Thank you for being great teachers. I am so happy to be part of this learning, teaching community. Today, I will focus on creating bonds in language classes. Let me share my PowerPoint presentation with you. Creating bonds is crucial for teacher well-being, for student well-being. You know, well-being is a buzzword, is very popular. You know, everybody is talking about the well-being, being happy and healthy at the same time. It is important for us as teachers. It is important for students, and also it is important for school atmosphere, because we create bonds with each other. We have relationships with each other. We communicate with each other, and this is so valuable. So in this presentation, please consider this presentation as a sharing platform where you can share your ideas. Let's keep the chat box active. Also, you can keep the comment on YouTube channel active as well. My colleagues will share what you have written on YouTube channel. Also, let's keep the chat box active. You can share your thoughts, you can share your activity ideas. Let's consider this presentation as a sharing platform. Sharing is caring, you know, and this is very important. I would like to start with one of my favorite stories, with one of the classics, you know, The Little Prince. You know, Little Prince is about a man, a pilot, who crash landed on a desert, and there he meets a little prince. And the prince is from an island with 3 volcanoes and a rose, and he loves his rose so much. But the rose's vanity makes him leave the planet. Then he comes to Earth, and on Earth he finds out that he discovers a garden full of roses, and he finds out that his rose is not so unique. Then he meets a fox there, and we get some life lessons from this fox, you remember. And Little Prince is generally suggested for children, but it has great message for adults, for teachers as well. Let's focus on the message from the fox here. What have we learned from this fox? The fox gives 3 important life lessons to us, to adults as well. The first lesson: only the heart can see correctly. And the second one: once away from a place, and in this case, the prince's time from his planet has made him appreciate his rose more. So when we have when we leave that place, when we sleep on it, we appreciate that thing or that person more. We understand that person more. And love entails responsibility. It can be a person, it can be a thing, it can be your dog, it can be your cat, it can be a rose, it can be anything, but you are responsible for what you love. If you love something, it brings responsibilities as well. So you can't get off your responsibilities. This fox gives us 3 important lessons, right? I don't know whether this is your favorite story as well. Please write from the chat box which lesson you found very special in this classic. Okay, you can keep the chat box active. You know, I have been mesmerized by Little Prince, you know. So you can keep the chat box active, and you can write the message you got from the Little Prince. And that was my favorite story. One of my favorite stories, The Little Prince. And now one of my favorite poems, you know, by Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson says in this poem, "If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin onto his nest again, I shall not live in vain." So that is one of my favorite poems, and that was one of my favorite stories. What they have in common: Actually, they remind me of teaching, you know, this poem and that story. And you all know teaching is more than teaching the school subject. We teach the content, we teach English, but it is more than that. All great teachers, they know this. Maybe you are knowledgeable, you know a lot about grammar rules, your pronunciation is great, you have wide range of vocabulary, but if you don't create bonds with students, with learners, actually it doesn't mean a lot. So in this session, we will try to focus on some details, some little details that make the difference in our classrooms. Now, I would like to ask you this story. The ones who watch me from YouTube channel, they can use the comment feature on YouTube. They can write their comments, or they can think about the question, ponder in their mind. And the ones here in this webinar online, Zoom, please go to Mentimeter, and I have asked you this question. When was the last time you have felt yourself special? Okay, please use the link in the chat box. I will share my Mentimeter screen within some seconds. Let's spread some positivity, okay? When was the last time you felt yourself so special, okay? Please try to write a sentence. When was the last time? I hope it wasn't just, you know, you have that moment, you know, you can remember it. People appreciate what you are doing, I guess. It can be a smile, it can be a touch, it can be a very small thing. When was the last time you felt yourself special? Please go to Mentimeter link, and I will share my Mentimeter screen so that we can see the answers. Okay, so yes. So I'm waiting for your answers, but okay, let's not have screen mode. I guess in screen mode, I don't know, there is a problem with Mentimeter in my classes as well. I can't see the answers. So I will just keep the page. Okay, I can see the answers. Let me share the screen once again. So let's see your answers. Let's spread positivity. I hope you can see my screen, also the ones who watch me from the YouTube channel. So in your mind, okay, please just also focus on your special moment. My son prepared a breakfast for me. Oh, hocam, you are very lucky. So good for your son. Well done. I don't even remember a time like that. Yes, my colleague, you have that moment, but maybe it is difficult. It can be a difficult question. And another friend has written, when I remembered the ability I have. Yes, sometimes we forget it, or some people, unfortunately, make us forget our abilities. Sometimes we remember our ability, and it was one of the luckiest moments. Anything else, dear colleagues? When was the last time you felt yourself so special? Anything related to classroom? Anything, any comment you get from one of your students? Anything from the classroom lately? Let's wait for some seconds. I know it can be a difficult question to remember. Sometimes they are small details, but it takes some time to remember those moments, you know. And I can share mine with you while waiting for my friends. You know, I wrote a reference letter for one of my students, and when she got her reference letter, after she got her reference letter, she sent me a thank you note from her email, and in her email, she kindly thanked. She focused on my strengths. She said that she takes me as one of her role models, and that was one of the moments I felt myself so special. So, and one of our friends has written, I felt special when my students visited me after my father's funeral. Wishing you condolences, hocam. Yes. Any other moment, dear colleagues, you would like to share before I move on? So we all want to be seen, we all want to be heard, we all want to be appreciated, right? We want those moments. Even, you know, maybe on social media, you have heard this. Some people have a jar, and in that jar, in a single piece of paper, they write those moments related to their classroom, related to their students. For example, a student thanked me, a student sent me an email, a student smiled at me, a student did this. So when you feel yourself down, when you are in a bad mood, you open that jar and you read their comments, and you cheer yourself up. You don't need any other person. So it can be an idea for you. You can keep them in a jar. Maybe in another presentation, when another colleague asks you, you can remember that moment. You can keep them in a jar, and when you feel yourself down, you can open it and you can cheer yourself up. This can be a good idea, dear colleagues. Let's continue with my presentation. So, we tried to share our special moments. Now I would like to ask you, during the pandemic, maybe you baked your bread. You know, that was very popular during the pandemic. What do you need for delicious sourdough bread? Right, what is your recipe? Any idea? Maybe if you're a quick writer, you can write from the chat box what you need for delicious sourdough bread. Let me wait for some seconds if there is any quick typewriter from the chat box. Anyone who is interested in baking bread among us, you know, during the pandemic, that was one of the popular things. You know, people got stuck into their houses, they got trapped, they couldn't go outside because of COVID-19 virus. So they started baking bread. Maybe one of you did this. Yes, good flour, good quality. Sibel Hocam has written. Yes, thank you, Hocam. And you have tried, Hocam, huh?
I don't actually try. Unfortunately, I haven't tried, but my mom, my husband, they love cooking, and that's what I heard from them. I'm not very keen on cooking, Arzu Hocam, but my husband loves it, and when I ask him, sometimes he makes really good stuff, and when I ask him the secret, he says, I make it with lots of love. So yeah, and he says it's the key. He may be right, because when I cook, because I don't like cooking, I can never be successful.
So you learn from his experience.
Yes, yes.
You are very lucky to have such a husband. I guess he should hear my words. Then you can make him watch the recording after the presentation. You are very lucky to have him. Yes, Hocam. Also, another colleague has written good quality of flour folding. Yes, hocalarım, you are right. For folding, for good quality, you haven't mentioned these, but I guess what you need, let me share. You maintain a schedule to feed your sourdough starter, right? You have a schedule and you feed it, you know. And you sometimes check it. I have a friend, for example, she has a sourdough starter and its name is Mesude. Even sometimes she talks to Mesude. Mesude, are you okay today? Are you going to show good performance? So she even talks to Mesude with that sourdough starter. And you should know how to store your sourdough starter. And also you should know how to revive your sourdough starter, because sometimes you can have some problems, you know. So you should feed it, you should store it quite well, and you should know how to revive it. So all of these, what they mean, so you should put in efforts. You need time for that. You should show care for that. Even you should show affectionate behavior, you know. So even sourdough bread, but we shouldn't say even, yes, sourdough bread, it needs attention, it needs time, it needs effort, it needs all the patience we have. So, and what about teaching? I know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's very popular, you know, it's another buzzword. Everybody is talking about it. But we should give importance to each step. For example, love and belonging. That is one of the important steps, you know. Why? We are all human beings. We are all social beings, and we want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to have intimacy. We want to have family, friends all around us, and also our students. So this step is very important. So I would like to underline, I guess all teachers have their own checklist. I don't know, what about you? Do you have your own checklist in your mind? I did this, I did this. And what about emotional side of it? This is my checklist. I don't know, maybe this checklist overlaps with yours. And please also, you can share your comments in the chat box. What about your checklist? What is your number one? When you go to your classroom, what is your number one? Then what you check? Then what you check? Don't say, I check homework, hocalarım. First, you should say, you should check something. For me, first, you should keep your students safe. I should keep my students safe. Physically and emotionally. They should feel themselves safe and comfortable in my class. And also, I should lower their anxiety, you know. Z generation is a bit different, you know, people are talking about Z generation, but in this age, you know, for example, people are using Twitter with 140 characters, you know. Our students don't want to make long sentences, but they read not in our way. They have different styles. Maybe they don't want to express themselves. They want to show their voices, but in a different way. But they are sometimes anxious because of peer effect. Not always teacher effect, but because of peer effect. They don't want to be criticized by their peers. You know, we have peer group effect. We should lower their anxiety. They should feel themselves that they're in a classroom where everybody supports each other, where no one is humiliated, where everyone can share his or her ideas. So lower their anxiety and make them laugh. I guess laughing together is very important. Sometimes we forget this. We should learn all together, even to our own mistakes as a teacher as well. And make them feel loved, and then we can teach them something. But sometimes we enter the classroom and we want to teach them present perfect. We want to teach them present continuous. Okay, I know we are trying to catch up with our schedule. We have burden on our shoulder, but if they don't respect us, if they don't love us, they won't learn anything. So all in that order. Keep them safe, lower their anxiety, make them laugh, make them feel love, and then we can teach them something. So creating bond is very important in this sense. And you know, there are some keywords when we talk about creating bonds. Class atmosphere is very important. And you know, as a teacher, we evaluate the classroom atmosphere, whether it is tense, whether I need to act on that, whether I should change my actions. So we should follow their facial expressions. You know, sometimes you go to conferences, you go to presentations face to face, and for example, that presenter is reading from his or her notes, and he or she doesn't check your facial expression. But if he or she looks at your facial expression, that person will understand that that presentation is very boring to you. Then that person can change his or her rhythm. But most of the people, they don't do this. They keep on reading, they keep on doing that activity. It works or not, they don't care about it. They care whether they will finish pacing or not. So I guess we should refrain from that. Feelings are very important. And relationships and learning community is another important thing, another keyword. And I have some reflective questions as well, but I won't use Mentimeter right now. If it is okay for you, you can keep it private if you don't want to share from the chat box. It is okay for me, but I will give you some seconds to think about this question. But I will be happy if you share your thoughts from the chat box. My first question is this. Remember a teacher from your past, okay? Your role model teacher, your favorite teacher, okay? And one who left a positive impression on you. What was the atmosphere in the classroom? And what were his or her special qualities? Could you please use some adjectives? I guess as the adjectives are positive, we can share from the chat box. We are not sharing something negative, I guess. So if you are okay, if you feel you can type, please share your opinion from the chat box. And the ones who watch me from the YouTube channel, you can use comment feature or you can think on your own. Remember a teacher from your past, one who left a positive impression, and what were his or her special qualities? Let's use some adjectives. Sibel Hocam says she never shouted, she was never angry. Zuhal Hocam says sincere. Hale Hocam says encouraging, friendly. Again, Sibel Hocam says she was always positive and sincere. So positive, sincere, encouraging, friendly. Any other adjective? Thank you hocalarım for the ones who have shared their thoughts. Any other adjective you would like to add? Behiye Hocam says creative and game oriented. This is interesting, game oriented. So you remember games from your role model teacher. Very good Hocam. Thank you for sharing. Any other adjective you would like to add to the list? Any other adjective? Any other quality you remember from your role model teacher? From your favorite teacher from the past? I don't know, was that your English teacher? Even you can share it from the chat box or from any other branch. Talkative, Hale Hocam says. Nur Hocam says, Şükran Çetin from ELT department. She had all the good qualities as a lecturer. Thank you, Hocam. I guess Şükran Hocam should have heard this. So she's very lucky to have you as one of her students as well. She dressed well, Sibel Hocam has written. Nur Hocam says she was understanding. Yes, understanding, another adjective. Thank you. And also professional, I guess Sibel Hocam says, yes, having a professional outlook.
That's right, but Hocam, I'm sorry to interrupt. But,
please, Hocam.
At that time, of course, I'm sure there's a big difference between my time and the new generation. But at the time, she wasn't allowed to wear trousers, for example. I'm revealing my age, unfortunately, I know. But she was sort of doing it, and she managed to look cool and modern, and I don't know how to say it, but casual in a way, and created a friendly atmosphere.
Yes.
Of course, more important than, as you said, she was friendly and understanding. And I really liked her, and last year I found her. I searched on Google and I found her phone number and called her. So yeah, you never forget a teacher who leaves good impressions. Thank you for giving me the chance to reflect on that.
Thank you, Hocam. And also, hocalarım have written something, and friendly, very good at her job, having routines. Yes, Gizem Hocam. Nevin Hocam says she was disciplined, good model, loved to give chance to every student. Yes. And also, Nur Hocam says, my English teacher from high school, Nurgül Ünal, still I call her. Hocalarım, thank you so much. Now, I would like to ask this question to you. Okay, then that was your role model. Now, what about you? What is it like to be taught by you? Would you use the same adjectives for you as well? For example, are you friendly? Are you sincere? Okay, be honest, hocalarım. Let's gossip about your teaching style. Could you please write to the chat box, what about you? What is it like to be taught by you? If I ask this question to one of your students right now, what would they say about you? What would be the first adjective they would use for you? Friendly, sincere, disciplined, what would it be? Please use adjectives. From now on, I will consider these adjectives for you, okay? And yes, Behiye Hocam says, I still like playing games, so I play with students. So Hale hocam, I guess I couldn't see the adjectives. Made me feel so. I couldn't see the adjective, I guess. You can clarify it if you like. Yes, hocalarım. Any other adjective you would like to use to describe yourself? What about you? Sincere, friendly, disciplined. Ha hocam, yes Hale hocam. Now we can see. Encouraging and friendly. Yes, okay. So, hocalarım, why I have asked these questions to you? Why? Because why are previous role model teachers effective in our teachers' beliefs and practices? Because we are affected by our previous experiences as students. Generally, people assume we are affected mostly by our formal schooling experience, but actually we are affected by our previous experiences as students. We don't forget those moments. Teachers tend to act in a similar way, and they are trying to create a similar classroom environment, a similar atmosphere in their classroom. And if this environment is negative, for example, disciplined, and so you are trying to make your students act in a disciplined way, but sometimes it causes some negative effects. For example, if you don't reflect on this, if you don't realize this by reflection or change the way you act in the classroom, it can have some negative consequences for you. You should act on it. You should reflect on yourself. Why I am acting like this? Because of my previous experience, you know? So this is one of my favorite Maya Angelou's quotation. I have learned that people will forget what you said, forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So at the end of the day, feelings, what we have are the feelings, okay? We forget the actions, we forget, for example, what they said, but we don't forget our feelings. We don't forget that, for example, we felt desperate during that moment. We don't forget we felt unhappy, we felt humiliated. So feelings are very important. So I have also some reflective questions, but I have some time restrictions, hocalarım, right? Okay, I can move on. These are questions. Please keep them. You can take the screenshot or you can watch the recording afterwards. These are some reflective questions. I guess at the end of school day, we should ask ourselves some questions. For example, you should create some scenarios and you should give your decision. What would I do in this circumstance? Okay, for example, one question. How do you handle, what do you say when a student says, I am not feeling okay these days, for example, after the earthquake or, you know, during the pandemic, I am not feeling okay. Do you continue teaching present perfect, or do you stop and say something to that student, or do you say after the lesson finishes? So I don't know, what is your reaction to this? Or if there were a student who showed disinterest towards your lesson, how would you handle that? For example, that student is not listening to you, sleeping in your class. How would you handle that? And a student criticized you or the content of the lesson without using harsh words, but very directly, but in a kind manner. But he or she said that I don't like this book, actually. I don't like the activities in this book, for example. How do you handle that? For example, these are some reflective questions. You may think about your answers to these questions, hocalarım. So, you know, we should treat people as if they were what they ought to be, okay? And you help them become what they are capable of being. We should have high expectations from our students. And building teacher and student rapport, having relationships, you know, we know this from our daily life, right? We have relationships with our colleagues, with our administration as well, at school, with our manager at school. It is not a one-time event. It takes days and months, even years, but only time is not the answer. What we do with time is the answer. And it creates a caring community. And I believe that from the bottom of my heart, teachers do not disconnect from students intentionally. But there are some small moments. For example, you forget to ask how they are, you forget to greet them, or you forget to say get well soon, or some things like that. And there are everyday events that leave students feel less valued. I know our job is very difficult. We are trying to handle, I don't know, 200 students, 300 students. We are all human beings. That is so normal. But for our students, we are their teachers. So they expect something from us. For example, they expect us to ask them how they are. They expect us to greet them, you know. And as teachers, we should reflect on ourselves every single day. This is very important. And if our students feel that they matter, they participate more, you know. What happens? They show higher engagement. Their attendance increases and their grades increase as well, and fewer disruptive behaviors. If they respect you, you may know this, right? From your personal experience, they don't try to show disruptive behavior. Actually, the ones who show disruptive behavior are the ones who need love the most, I guess, from you. They are trying to take your attention. Maybe they can't get attention in their family. They are trying to get your attention, and they show lower school dropout rates. And if people believe they are important, anything works. But if they don't believe, nothing works actually. And you know, maybe you are familiar with this cycle, and there are different dimensions of engagement: behavioral, social, cognitive, collaborative, and emotional. And so in the session we focus on emotional one. Emotional engagement has three components. The first one, learning community. You know, you create a classroom where people respect each other, understand each other, show empathy towards each other, and strong relationships they have. And they have growth mindset. Growth mindset is another buzzword, you know. If our students have a growth mindset, they don't give up easily, you know. But the ones with fixed mindset, they said that, okay, I am not intelligent enough, I won't do this, I won't learn English, and they give up very easily. But the ones with growth mindset, they put efforts for that. They keep on trying. They are showing efforts. So these are important. Is there a magic wand to create bonds with our students? Yes, actually, no, actually, and yes or no. So time will show. Actually, what we do with time will show as well. So at the end of the class, we should leave them with a smile, hug, or a kind thought. I guess that is one of our goals as well, besides present perfect, present continuous, relative clause, blah, blah. And we can focus on some classroom activities. I know you are using them. Even you can share your own classroom activity in the chat box or in the comments feature on YouTube channel, so we can learn from each other. And we gather information about our students, you know. We learn their interests. But what we don't do, sometimes we forget this, we learn he's interested in football. We learn she's interested in art. She's interested in football as well. No gender discrimination. Girls and boys, they can have similar interests as well. But we don't use them in the following lesson. What we should do with that information? Okay, I have learned that that student has an interest in football, in art, in cinema, in science. We should use that information in the following lesson. We can have a notebook with us if we don't trust our memory. We have very short-term memory. We should write them, and in the following lesson, we should use them as a as a lesson starter. For example, use 5 or 10 minutes every day to ask questions unrelated to school, about a student's weekend, about his or her hobby. But sometimes we learn their interests, but we don't use them in the classroom, in the following week. For example, 2 weeks later, if we use them, our students will feel valued. They will say, oh, wow, my teacher remembers that detail about me. Oh, she remembers that I'm interested in cinema, I'm interested in art. So she suggested a film to me. She suggested a book for me. So this is very important. Just imagine yourself, for example, one of your friends, for example, suggested a film to you. You will feel yourself special, right? And so we should keep that information for the following lessons. And so another one, maybe you have seen this Editopia. We can have such a similar chart: interests, goals, areas of strength, academic needs, social, emotional, learning needs, and career needs. Even we can have this chart and we can write them, we can use them, and we can put the photo, for example. And also, for example, we can get feedback, our students. Getting feedback is very important. But if you get angry when you are criticized, when somebody criticizes you, when somebody says something about the content of the lesson, if you get angry, don't ask this question, okay? Don't say, okay, let's criticize me, let's give feedback to me. Just yourself, your temperature. For example, you can ask them, how can I help you be more successful in this class? Or what do you like best and least about our class? Or what could I do to make the class more interesting for you? Of course, we can't do all the things they suggest, but we can gather their ideas, But generally, we do this at the end of the term. We get feedback at the end of the term. But we should do this within some intervals. For example, at the end of March, at the end of April, at the end of May, and also at the end of June, not at the end of the semester only. But so we should act on it. We can change ourselves. For example, we can use some generic starters for our students. I would like to know more about this. I feel one thing I would like to change in this class is, so we should hear their voices. What else we can do? We should get personal, Don't forget to share your own interest. For example, if you have a dog, show your dog's photo, your cat's photo. Then your cat will be more popular than Garfield or Snoopy in your class. So get personal. Of course, not too many details. We should care their problems. Of course, we are not psychologists. It is not our job to offer solutions, but even we can turn this into a class activity, They can write on Mentimeter or Wordwall, any technological tool you use, or even on a piece of paper without writing their name anonymously. They can write one of their problems. It can be big or it can be small. Then you can open those papers all together, and each student can come up with suggestions for his or her friend's problem. For example, I can't sleep, I have problems with waking up, I have blah, blah. So they can come up with solutions as well. But you should be real, okay? Because our students can check, can understand whether we are sincere or not. And the story, The Princess and the Pea, that is also one of my favorite stories. The prince wants to get married and looking for a lady. And then one night a lady knocks the door and she says that I am a princess. But the prince's mother doesn't believe in her. And she says that let's test this. And she puts 20 mattresses, and under all the mattresses a pea. And after that night, in the morning, the prince's mother asks the lady, oh, did you have a good night's sleep? And she says that, no, I couldn't sleep. I don't know. I have backache, there is a problem. So the prince's mother now just sure that that lady is a real princess, and, they get married. Why I am sharing the story, under 20 mattresses, there is a P, and that signals that that is the symbol of our problems. Behind our scene, behind this Zoom screen, we have lots of problems, and our students also, they have lots of problems. So we should create a platform where they can share their problems without any criticism. If they say, I don't like English, they can say, this is okay. So we should have such atmosphere in our class. And exercises that involve connectedness, as I don't have time, I will just show the exercises. And, I use these icebreakers in my classes. You can ask your students to write an acrostic poem with the letters, with the letters of their name. For example, I am Arzu. With my letters, I can write a poem. You can use adjectives. You can use an object that show real you. For example, ambitious, reliable, zealous, and unlucky. For example, with you, it's difficult to find an adjective. So, acrostic poem, for example, even beginner levels, they can do this. If they have dictionary, even if they know adjectives, they can do this, okay? No worries with that. For example, not ambitious, but they can write apple. If they like eating apple, they can write this. And it is acrostic poem, and you can put them around the classroom, for example, if it is okay for you, if it is possible in your school environment, or you can turn this into a digital, for example, sharing platform, and you can share students' acrostic poem there, for example. I really like this activity. And another activity, I guess you use this, for example, two numbers, a name, and a place. For first, you can give your own example. For example, 20, 15, Şenur Kılıç, and Dumlupınar. 20, for example, let's say I have been living in Istanbul for 20 years, and students are asking, they ask some questions to me to find the question, okay? So what was the question? How long have you been living in Istanbul, for example? So 20 years, this is the answer for that question. For example, 15 years, how long have you been teaching? They can say, Şenur Kılıç, who is your favorite role model? Dumlupınar is my primary school. So you can come up with some numbers, name, and place. So students can also write theirs, and you can try to guess their meanings as a whole class activity. And gratitude journal, I really like this one. I guess we should all do this. At the beginning of each class, ask your students to write one thing they are grateful for. It can be small, it can be big. They can do this in a journal. For example, I was just one of the students who didn't like writing a diary. I guess writing a diary is not a good idea. But for example, they can write 3 sentences, 2 sentences, something they are grateful for in their life. Grateful for their family, grateful for their teacher, grateful for their school, anything. You can start with something positive every morning. And collaborative storytelling, for example, you start a story with a few sentences. You can give the beginning of the sentence. Then one student can write something, another student continues, and they write their story, for example, and they can share it with the whole class. Each student adds a few more sentences. And so it encourages creativity, collaboration, and it can be a lot of fun for students. And mystery box, for example, you can have a box, you can have a plastic bag or anything, paper bag, and you can put some objects in it or some questions, some prompts, and one of the students just picks something from that box. And for example, he or she tries to answer the question, or he or she tries to say what it reminds him or her of, or anything that comes to his or her mind about that object, about apple, about pen, about book, anything. So it encourages students to share their thoughts and ideas. So we should hear their voices. And also classroom scavenger hunt. And if your school environment is suitable for this task, you can use some for example, clues. You can create a list of items and clues for them to find. You can put them in various places in your class or in your school. And so, for example, they can answer the question and they can just find another clue, and they can find another clue. And at the end, there will be a winner. Oh, I don't know if weather conditions are suitable. You can have this outside. But if they have English words, again, they can practice their English skill as well. So scavenger hunt can be possible. And class podcast, I don't know if you're good with technological tools. If your students, I don't know, high school students, generally, I see them with their cell phones all the time. They have their cell phones and they can record themselves. For example, they can record their favorite movie, for example, a few words about it. They can record something about their favorite singer. And then you can bring them all together and you can have a class podcast. Or there can be one student who is good at technology. He or she can bring all the podcasts into a single class podcast. You can have a video and you can share it on your school web page or any technological tool you have, or on your Instagram page for your school. So all the students can work together. But we shouldn't give up that idea. At the beginning, we can have some troubles, we can have some problems with that activity, but we should hang on there. We shouldn't give up. And book clubs, in the morning, I have shared this with my students. You are all familiar with Stephen Krashen, you know. Krashen had an experiment, you know, experimental group and control group about TOEFL, you know, remember that experiment. One group with the control group, he didn't change anything. For example, just regular English class, you know, grammar rules, vocabulary, reading text, writing text, just a regular English classroom. But in experimental group, what he did, you know, you remember from your formal schooling, in that class, he asked students to read a book, but that book should be their own choice. You shouldn't ask your students to read Alice in Wonderland, for example. They may not like it, for example. Some students will like it, but they may not like it. So they will find a book, for example, if it is stage 1, if it is stage 2, but I don't know if you are in a neighborhood that is economically deprived. Of course, you should offer them some book choices. Maybe you should bring your own books. I don't know if you have library. So they should choose their books. And, you know, Krashen did this. For a semester, with that experimental group, they only read their books. And with control group, they had their regular English classes. Then at the end of the term, he compared their TOEFL scores. And he found out that there isn't big statistical difference between those two groups. Then what he concludes, what he suggests, he says that even with reading, we can achieve a lot of things. And sometimes, for example, we feel the burden on our shoulder, but we can feel relaxed. If our students like reading, for example, they get the same score with the regular class, with the regular English class. So book clubs are important. I know when our students hear the word book, they said that, oh, okay, I don't want to read it because they are Z generation, Twitter generation. They like writing 140 characters. But let's try this. Don't give up on this idea. And, you know, Krashen also suggests us to have one level higher. If they are stage 1, it's a good idea to try stage 2, you know, one level higher. But if it is not okay, you can come to stage 1. You are professionals, you can choose the books accordingly, but you should offer them some choices, but don't say just read Alice in Wonderland, blah, blah. So book clubs important, I guess. Then they can share their own ideas. And also, for example, as I have said, I have this activity, but I don't have time for that. So students anonymously on a piece of paper, they can write one of their problems, and they can open that piece of paper and they can say, oh, my friend says, oh, I have sleeping problems. What you can do, you should do this, blah, blah. So he or she comes up with suggestion. So as a classroom activity, you know, like Aunt Agony, Yüzün abla, so they are trying to find some solutions all together. And what else they can do? I really like this one. I would like to show you a very small video complementing each other. This is something great. Let me share my computer sound with you. Let's watch this video. Let's see what kind of environment they have, what kind of power complementing has. We should complement each other. Let's watch this video.
I love having you in my class. I think you're very funny.
Yes.
I think you're amazing.
Yes.
I think you are brilliant.
Yes.
I think everyone in here loves you.
Yes.
Great job.
You're the greatest teacher ever.
Thank you. You're a great student. You are.
So Hocalarım, I really like this video, so we should try this at the beginning or at the end of our class, so our students can learn this, can learn to complement each other. For example, you can even start doing this. You can be a good role model for your students. You can find this video on YouTube as well if you want to watch it one more time. So what else we can do? We should hear their voices. So we should offer them some options. As Sibel Hocam has mentioned, I am interested in art. So I use art in my classes. I like going to museums. I like going to exhibitions. And I use some elements. I integrate some elements to my classes. You can use some pieces of art, some masterpieces, your favorite works of art in your class, and just show that piece of art to your students and just ask them to describe it with some basic vocabulary, with some basic sentences, what they see in the painting. For example, there is a lady, she's reading a book, she looks a bit depressed or she's thinking about something. You can ask some critical thinking questions, for example. So please try to use some works of art in your classes as well. For example, you can show Frida Kahlo's, for example, works of art, and you can ask ask them to work in pairs. You are the person in the picture. Then, how old are you in this painting? Where are you in this painting? Just have a look at the questions. They are basic questions. What is your job in this painting? Where do you live? What are you thinking? How are you feeling? What are you holding? Who is the man? So A1 level students, they can do this very successfully. But just show a piece of art and ask them to put themselves in the shoes of that character in the painting, and they can come up with some answers. You can do this as a pair activity, or you can ask them to do it on their own. It is up to you. And so, for example, you can say, what do you see in this painting? What is that lady doing? Where is she? How does she feel? Have you ever felt like that? After basic descriptions, you ask something. You ask them to relate it to their personal experience. Have you ever felt like that? And do you like going out alone or with your friends? Have you ever wanted to stay alone? Like this, you can increase the number of questions in accordance with your class pacing and rhythm. And for example, you can ask your students use video platforms they are familiar with, for example, and they can introduce themselves and they can share the recording with you and with their friends, for example. Sometimes they are quiet in our classes, but some students are good at technology and they like creating videos, for example. We can also help them join our classes as well. And also check in questions, learn our students' interest. You know, on the internet, there are lots of questions, lots of check-in questions. You can have one of these. For example, I have 130 questions, for example. If you have such questions, you can use them at the beginning or at the end of your class as a gap filler, or whenever you like, and you can take the temperature of the class. And for example, another activity, as I have said, sharing our likes, dislikes, checking every student every week to talk about what they have watched, what they have listened. Have you watched this film? Have you read this? And you know, we can build relationships by treating each student as if they were our own child, modeling positivity, focusing on their strengths. Sometimes we focus on their weaknesses. For example, we give feedback. We said that, oh, you have problem with your grammar, you have problem with your linking words, you have problem with your blah, blah. But say something positive. Focus on his or her strengths as well, and focus on who they are becoming. Just accompany their journey. And so they are growing and they're blooming like a flower. And we are just experiencing this, and we are so lucky to have our students in our class. What else we can have? You know, maybe you are familiar with the story. For example, a teacher had 2 apples. for one apple, she used bad words, okay? And also asked her students to use bad words. Oh, you are a horrible apple. You have horrible color. I don't like you, blah, blah. And to another apple, she uses very kind words. Oh, you are a good apple. You taste well. You are beautiful, and very kind words. And after that, she cut both apples, and she finds out that the one which she uses and all the students in the class uses bad words, were actually bruised and all mushy inside. But the one they used kind words was clear, fresh, and juicy inside. And even we are like that, Sometimes we don't show our feelings, but inside we feel humiliated. We feel desperate. But sometimes we don't show this to other people. Even, for example, bullying, for example, has such consequences in our school. Our students don't show this, but they have some serious consequences. And so when people are humiliated, given less value, especially children, they feel horrible inside, but they don't show or tell others that they are feeling, how they are feeling. And so these are my last checklist. We should check whether we say our students' names throughout the day, every student's name. We should call their names, use their names. Arzu, Sibel, Hale, important. We shouldn't just say, okay, you, other student, the one at the back, but we should use their names. Every student hears their name from the teacher at least twice or 3 times. Make sure everyone just answer the question in some way, okay? You can ask even yes, no question. It is perfect, no problem. But just make sure that student hears his or her name from you, but in a positive way, of course. You ask students how they are at the beginning of each class. You show interest in their hobbies. You do not act them as if they were going to plagiarize. For example, don't say, I don't trust you. You will plagiarize. You will cheat in the exam. Don't start with something negative, okay? And you see it normal when they make mistakes, and also see it normal when you make mistakes. It is so normal. Apologize for your mistakes. No problem with that. It's so normal. We are all human beings. And inclusive language is very important. And praising is another thing, as I have said. Sometimes we focus on their weakest points. And encouraging our learners, highlighting all very important things, but difficult. I know there are maybe 40 students in your class, 50 students in a single class. So it is difficult to handle, I know. And help students that they are not alone. This is very important. And giving timely feedback. And also, for example, in your feedback, focus on something they have accomplished. You can find this. I guess we are good at this. Focus on something they have accomplished and try to give your positive feedback. And for example, also focus on this question. Are you telling them to do one thing, and also you are modeling the opposite thing? What I mean, for example, you ask your students not to shout in the class, but you shout at your students. You ask them to do something, but you are doing the opposite thing. So this shouldn't be the case, I guess. Or you ask your students, for example, oh, don't have sulky faces, don't look at me like that. Just be enthusiastic, But for example, you just here at your table, just sleeping like that. So you are modeling the opposite thing. So we should model what we ask them to do, I guess. If we want them to be enthusiastic, we should be enthusiastic as well. I know life is difficult for all of us, but expecting them to do something and doing another thing, it shouldn't be the case for us. And are you paying more attention to some students than others? Do you have teacher pets in your class? For example, the ones who sit in the front row, you just get the answer from those students. They are called teacher pets, in literature review. We like those students. They are lifesavers. For example, when we don't have any answer, we ask them to give their answers, but we shouldn't do that, I guess. And also positive feedback, as I have said, we should give positive feedback all the time. If you want to provide 3 positive feedback, you should provide 3 positive feedback for 1 negative piece of feedback. So you should load with positivity. and feelings important even for young children. If they don't want to express themselves, you can give them some stickers, you can give them some emoticons, and they can put that sticker on their table, for example. Today, I feel annoyed. They will put that sticker on their table, and you will say that, okay, I won't ask question to that student. So they will have that chance, you know, they will understand that their teacher cares their feeling. So you can print them out, and you can say that, okay, you can use any emoticon you like. Please put it on your table. You can walk around and you can say that, okay, Ahmet is happy today. Okay, Sibel Hocam is a bit excited today. Okay, Hale Hocam is surprised today. So focus on their feelings. They don't express them, but we understand from the emoticons, from the printouts they put on their table. And you know, I really like this post on social media. The teacher asked the students to finish the sentence, I wish my teacher knew. And one of the students has written, I wish my teacher knew how smart some of the bad kids are. You know, so there are some troublemakers. We see them like that. But every day is a new chapter for them. We should act like that. Okay, maybe they may be showing some troubles in some of our classes, but today is a new chapter. So you can give some chance to those students. And also you can use this, for example, on your board or on one of the technological tools. What makes you feel loved? They may come up with such answers. Playing with my sister, when I get hugs, when my mom hugs me. Even in your parent-teacher meetings, you can share them with your with the parents, you know. You can say that, okay, for example, Shule likes hugging, you know, and for example, you know, Mehmet likes spending time with his sister, so you can share some clues. So, for example, I really like this cartoon. Are you okay? No, not really. How can I help? No, not really. But hey, it helps to know you want to help. Really? Yes. It is a great feeling to know that somebody is there and ready to help us. Maybe we can't solve his or her problem, but we are there. We have a helping hand for that person. And I would like to end my presentation with a quotation. Some teachers taught the curriculum today, other teachers taught students today, and there's a big difference. I know you are in the second category, so you taught your students today. These are some of the videos I highly suggest you to watch from the recording. You can again watch the recording again. I highly suggest you to watch Professor Mercer's videos on YouTube. She is one of the experts in social emotional learning. Also Dernier, also other videos, Edutopia. So please watch them about connecting, about creating bonds with students. And also these are some references. Also you can refer to them. You can watch the recording again. Thank you so much hocalarım for your time. I hope we turned this presentation into a sharing platform. Thank you for your patience and time hocalarım.
Thank you, Hocam. It's been great. Really so moving, so inspiring. Thank you for sharing. Really, it's nice to hear something real, something practical, something we can do in our classes. So I would like to thank you again for dedicating your valuable time here with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Hocam.
I also thank you a lot, Arzu Hocam. It's a pleasure to host you.
My pleasure, hocalarım. Thank you so much. And also the participants, our colleagues,
Yes,
thank you so
Thank
much.
you everyone for joining us today. Hope to see you for other events.